You know what's not talked about enough? That high performance can come at a high price. If you're climbing the corporate ladder or running your own business, I know how relentless the pressure can be to push harder, deliver more, and never slow down. On the outside, it looks like you've got it all together, but underneath, you might be running on fumes. And if you're like so many high performers, high achievers, and entrepreneurs I know, you could be silently burning out. In this episode of the Unleash Your Ambition podcast, I'm talking with organizational psychologist Chase Sterling, and she's sharing a powerful, deeply personal story about how overworking and living in a culture that glorifies constant hustle nearly cost her her life. We're going to dive deep into what burnout really is and what it isn't, why self-care alone isn't enough, and the hidden ways workplace culture and yes, even entrepreneurial hustle culture can wear down the most driven people. So if you've ever felt like slowing down means falling behind or that your worth is tied to how much you work and achieve and produce, this conversation is going to shift the way you see success. All right, grab your pen, your paper, and your favorite drink and get the most out of this episode. Chase, so happy that you're here. Can you please share who you are, what you do, and how you help people?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for inviting me, Stacie. I'm so excited to be here with you and your community today. My name is Chase Sterling, and for work, I am an organizational psychologist. My educational background is kind of unique. My undergrad was in exercise science and health psychology, and then I studied IO psychology and focused on occupational health. So for my work, I really try to make workplaces better. So I really try to improve working conditions. I think we all pretty much have to have jobs. We're not independently wealthy, and work doesn't need to be the way it currently is at most workplaces. So I'm really passionate about helping improve workplaces. And so how I do that is I do consult directly with employers. I work with them on things like policies, practices, leadership training, strategy work. And I'm so passionate about this work that 5 years ago, I actually started an educational nonprofit, and it's called Wellbeing Think Tank. And we put on free events every single month to really provide accessible education to business leaders, HR professionals, health and wellness professionals on how do we really create cultures of well-being in the workplace. And I feel really lucky. That's what I get to do every day. And I currently live in Portland, Oregon.
Well, thank you so much for the work that you do. And I just from what you've shared so far, let me repeat myself. What you've shared so far has, you know, made a unique impact, number one, on your life and the lives of others. So I love your unique angle of helping workplaces be better workplaces. I've been outside of a traditional career since 2007, 2008. So it's been a long time. So it's nice to be able to have more conversations with people that are in traditional workspaces. Like I've had people come on and talk about, leadership and shifting culture in the workplace, especially when it comes to toxic environment. So I love it that you're focused on the well-being of a workplace and making it better. So there's a lot that I want to talk about, but I think I would love first to talk about the thing that I thought would be a great way to kick this off, which is work isn't worth dying for, but I almost let it kill me. So where do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, that is a big part of who
Mhm.
I am and my story. Um, yeah, I almost let work kill me, and work is not worth dying for, and it informs a lot of my work. Um, So I'll share a little bit about my passion for work is I grew up in the state of Ohio, and I grew up in and out of children's services. And I ended up getting emancipated at 17. And the way I was able to get out of the house was through work. I started getting a paycheck job outside of like babysitting and things like that in the neighborhood. I got a paycheck job very early. And I went into a special program because I graduated high school a little early, where I just had to go to one class my senior year. And then I was free to go to work. So I was working like two full-time jobs. And there's good and bad things for that. It made me a little bit of a workaholic. And now I know as an older adult that that was a trauma response, that work was the safer place, unlike my home. But I think that's the case for a lot of people. A lot of us, we get into the workforce and we find things we weren't finding in our home lives. We find things like acceptance, a sense of community, maybe a sense of accomplishment, praise. But then we can develop unhealthy relationships with work. And I didn't really realize how unhealthy my relationship was until I had a really major health incident. And I'm no stranger to health incidents, unfortunately. I was kind of very healthy throughout my 20s. And then when I was 30, I had a botched foot surgery of all things that turned into 5 foot surgeries. And I developed a physical disability because of it. Then I started having all these autoimmune issues and all these musculoskeletal things. And that kind of pivoted my work. So originally, I was working more in community health and a lot of physical well-being. And then when physically I couldn't do that work anymore, I pivoted more into leadership and management and got interested in organizational psychology and how do we make workplaces better. And I like to say when it comes to well-being at work, all you need to do is everything, because everything impacts our well-being at work, from the people we work with, our leadership, the policies, the physical environment. There's so many things that impact it. So I pivoted my career, and I still was not aware of my relationship with work. So I was just very hard charging, working a lot. I take responsibility extremely seriously. So whatever I say I'm going to do, I'm going to do. And I hold myself to this very high standard of doing these things. And it basically worked until it didn't. So in my early 40s, I was 43. I did have a very rare condition that was musculoskeletal in nature. And it's a precursor to this incident. So I have to share it. So it's called venous thoracic outlet. And I ended up in the ER having to have emergency surgery, 10 days in the
Mm.
hospital. And when I got home after 10 days in the hospital, I couldn't even move at all. I could move like a centimeter, maybe, like my neck, my
Mm.
body. And I'm single, I don't have children. So I was trying to still take care of myself. And this was 2020. So this was like peak COVID, pre-vaccine.
Oh,
So it was all this
wow.
compounding stress.
Yeah.
So I was self-employed at the time. I had all this compounding stress happen. I have this big surgery that happens. And I was doing a lot of contract work. And if you know anything about benefits in the workplace, well, how long is short-term disability? It's 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's
And
short.
then long-term is longer, but it only replaces a portion of your income. And a lot of us, this is the problem. We need to have jobs. Most of us aren't. We don't have these huge cushioned bank accounts where we can be out of work for an extremely long time.
Hmm.
So I went back to work 6 weeks later, and I started part-time and crept up. But when I went back to work, my lung was still collapsed. So my lung had collapsed during my surgery. It still wasn't back all the way. I literally couldn't say a sentence without coughing. And because this was peak COVID pre-vaccine, I'd be on these video calls and I'd be like, "Hi, Stacie." Like, how
Oh.
are you? And I'd have to be like, I'm not sick, I swear, and just kind of comfort other people. And I noticed that something was wrong. I wear, like a lot of people, I wear a little fitness watch, and I noticed that my resting heart rate had gone up a lot. So my resting heart rate was suddenly in the 90s, and that is very high. The average for a human adult is about 72. If you're more athletic, it might be lower, but I noticed my resting heart rate had gone up, and my average heart rate was 110. I was exhausted all the time. I was constantly kind of gasping for air, and I was still working 40 plus hours a week, overcommitting, really struggling with a lot of things. And I knew I was stressed and I knew that I was feeling a little overwhelmed and burnt out, but I didn't know where my body was. And so I think it's really important to share that because the last several years, there have been a lot of conversations of people sharing their stories about stress and burnout.
Yeah.
But my profession kind of makes me a little unique in that burnout is a workplace condition. And this is something we study in organizational and other forms of psychology. So we have this 12 stage, 5 stage model of burnout that we look at. And I knew that I was probably at like a 2. I didn't know my body was at a 4 if we look at the 5 stage model. So one day I woke up and I had the worst headache of my life, and I don't get headaches. And I joined a Zoom call and I was supposed to present and I couldn't even speak because I was in so much pain. And I thought my eye was twitching because I kept seeing flickering. And so I kept going to the bathroom and like looking at my eye. I'm like, is my eye twitching? What's going on?
Mm.
And just went back to my call ins. I sit on the couch and I start to feel weird. And I think, especially as a woman, we tend to have sometimes some intuition. And
Yeah.
I was like, my body's not feeling right. I think maybe
Hmm.
I need to go to the hospital. I go into the bathroom and the whole left side of my face had fallen. And I mean, completely drooped. I called 911 and I was like, Zoom had me stroke. And they were like, ma'am, we can't understand you. And I was just like, stroke, stroke, like trying to tell them I think I'm having a stroke. And I was, no offense to our wonderful first responders, they were like, unlock the door in case you pass out. And they'll be up there soon. And then they hung up. And I
What?
was like, wait, are they supposed to hang up on me? And I share this part because it's just so true to I think how so many of us are. Guess who I called?
Who'd you call?
I called my boss. Because,
Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
I had a presentation the next day that, I was supposed to do a webinar. So I called my boss and who happened to be a woman at the time. And um, she answered the phone and I'm like, hey, do you have a stroke? And she was like, Chase, I don't think I can hear you right. I hear her like move rooms. And she's like, can you please say that again? And I was like, that is true. And her voice changed into what I would call mom voice, like mom tone. And she's like, Chase, I am very concerned. Please tell me you have called the hospital. I was like, yep, they hung up on me.
Mhm.
So she stays on the phone with me till the ambulance gets there. And guess what I made sure to bring with me?
You're something that has to do with work.
Oh yeah, I brought my laptop. You bet. I picked up that laptop bag because I was like, I got a presentation tomorrow. Better make sure I bring that. So I like pulled my
Oh,
mask down, like the firefighters are in there. I was like, Zoom heavy strip, let's go. And it's just like me and my laptop bag. And they're like, what is wrong with this woman? And it really did hit me. We're just like going down the elevator. I'm talking to them, I'm slurring. Um, but I'm trying to tell them what's going on. And then I was like, oh, I had this big surgery a few months ago. It's probably related. And I don't think they knew what to do with me. But then when I got to the bottom floor, because I live in an apartment, they couldn't get the gurney in the elevator. So
mm.
it wasn't until they were like, okay, time to get on the gurney, and they strapped me down that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. Like, this is it. Like, I'm dying right now. And it just didn't even hit me. Like I was literally having a stroke, looking at myself in the mirror. My face is completely fallen. I'm slurring and I'm still just like, better be bring my work with me. Like, what is absolutely wrong with me? And so luckily I had a transient ischemic attack, which is a baby stroke. It's like a 1 second stroke. It resolves quickly. I did make a
Mhm.
full recovery. But what was really surprising to me is several weeks later, I was seeing my physician, and it was the head of the women's health clinic. And she just looked at me and she's like, oh, yeah, like hard charging woman in her 40s, overoccupied with work, too much of your identity's wrapped up in this. I see this all the time. And I said, what do you mean you see this all the time? Like, we know that heart disease is the number one killer of women, but I didn't have what I would be concerned about, what we call comorbidities. I don't struggle with high blood pressure. I don't personally struggle with cholesterol issues. I didn't have any kind of preconditions, except I did have that surgery and I was still healing from it. So that was definitely, contributed to this happening. So I had this horrible medical incident. I didn't let my body heal. I kept pushing it. And if you don't take time for yourself, your body will give up. And as we age, and I'm almost 48 now, so this happened when I was about 43 and a half. My body doesn't work in my 40s the same way it did in my 20s. So the way I'd been working my entire life and pushing and promising and doing all these things, my body really gave me a message. And my doctor said the first 12 months is the most cautious. You are either going to have a massive stroke and then die in the next year, or you're going to learn how to live your life differently. So that first year, when I hit my 12 months, I went on a vacation because I made it. And now it's been several years. But I really like to talk about it because it's not a quick fix. And even though I do this for a living, like this is what I study, I help other workplaces with this. I can talk about burnout through a different lens, a very kind of evidence-based lens, and I know all of what to do, and even I struggle with it. So
Right.
if me sitting in my, expertise and all these things, and I still let it get me, I know it's negatively impacting, hundreds of thousands of people probably. And we see that in the statistics. We see how many people report they're stressed at work, they're reporting symptoms of burnout. Um, and I think why I like to talk about it so much is also that a lot of people like to tell their story, and we talk about the self-care piece, which is a piece of it, but burnout is caused from workplace conditions. It's not necessarily caused from a lack of self-care. That can be a piece of the puzzle, but it's the time constraints put on you. It's the workload, it's the environment. And so it's a mix. Again, when it comes to well-being at work, I say all you need to do is everything. And we do have to do our part
Mhm.
in prioritizing our health and well-being and practicing self-care, but you can't self-care your way out of a toxic workplace. Um,
Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
Yes. And so I
Hmm.
get frustrated sometimes with the self-care narratives because self-care will take you to a place, but it can only take you so far.
Right.
And everyone just can't up and quit their jobs. Not everyone's able to be self-employed. So, how do we work within the structures we have? Well, and then that's why I'm passionate about trying to fix the structure. And actually,
Love
let's
that.
make workplaces better. So that was a lot. I just threw a lot at you.
No, no, it was not a lot. I mean, I wanted to give you room to talk about this because, I mean, there is a story behind why you do the work that you do now. And, I was laughing because, when you're sharing, like, you took your laptop and it's relatable. All right. Because same thing with me, like, the parallel was like I didn't think I was close to dying, but I was working, I was functioning, and my doctor, and for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, like um I had a health experience where I almost died, but I was acting like everything was okay. I was still functioning until I got my ass handed to me and had to like step away from work and get on bed rest. But it's so relatable because, especially for high performing, high achieving people who are success driven, it's easy to just like continue doing business as usual, even in the midst of some major health problems that are happening. So that's why I wanted you to share because, I've already shared my origin story on the podcast. And for those of you who are new, don't know it, I'll most likely bring it up again. So don't worry about that. But I wanted Chase to share hers and also how it has impacted her life and how she's making a great impact in the workplace for people who cannot leave their jobs at the moment or ever. I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on the situation, but you're changing the environment to help it be a place where it's not toxic, where people aren't burning out, people being able to work in a way that's not going to negatively affect their health, So thank you so much for sharing your story. Like, I know there's parts where I wasn't on the screen, but I'm like my mouth is covered by my hand because it's an intense story. Like I'm so happy that you made it to the other side of it and you use that experience as a way to help fuel your passions and making an impact in people's lives. So I wanted to talk about leading with values to find your core customers, but I don't think we're going to have time for that. But I think I would love for you just to touch on like balancing purpose, passion, productivity, and profit. Like how can you work all of those in?
Absolutely. So I say my consulting practice is called HHP cultures, which is happy, healthy, productive. So workplaces love that P word, that productivity word, because they correlate it with profits. But people who are happy and healthy are going to be more productive. So focus on us as humans, and humans, we're very purpose driven. Things that ignite our passions and ignite our purpose really help us. I do think we can have some harmful rhetoric around purpose at work, though. I think sometimes it's very much okay if your work that you do day to day is not your purpose, because maybe it provides for your purpose. Maybe your purpose is really rooted in your family or in a hobby or in volunteering somewhere. So you have a job that you go to and that you get your paycheck for, and that fuels you to do your purpose. Um, but finding what that purpose is at work, making that connection for yourself is really important. For me, I'm constantly trying to balance those four things. Like, what really drives me? What is my passion? What is my purpose? How can I get the things done that I need to get done? And then also make a living. And that is a really challenging thing to do. I am at a place in my life where I did become an entrepreneur in my early 40s. And I always share with everyone the only way I'm able to be an entrepreneur is that I'm a disabled veteran. So my healthcare is covered by the Veterans Administration. And I would not be able to be self-employed without that. So I talk to a lot of people and they want to be self-employed and they're like, how do you survive? I'm like, I have my healthcare covered. And they're like, oh, that makes sense. So I always like to be very transparent with that. And now it's really a journey day to day. And I also just discovered a little over a year ago, it hasn't even been a year and a half, I got a very late ADHD diagnosis.
Mm.
And so it makes a lot of sense now of how my brain works, of why I did tend to overwork, or I really have a hard time grasping how long things take to do. So I don't carve out enough time for them and then I get overwhelmed. And again, it worked until it didn't work anymore. It worked until I got older and my body was like, hey, babe, you can't do that anymore. No, no. Um, so now I think spending time to figure out what is your purpose is really important. So giving yourself the time and space to be introspective and really sit with yourself and your feelings and navigate through different tasks at work. Like, do
Mhm.
you enjoy doing a task? Does it fill your cup? And
Mhm.
if you're in a traditional work environment, whether it's a office environment or you're in healthcare or you work retail, being able to talk to whoever your supervisor is and have these transparent conversations. Like, Stacie, I love it when I work the host stand at the restaurant. I love engaging with customers. I like to have these conversations with people. I hate it when you put me on the to go, because then
Mhm.
I'm just answering the phone and putting these boxes together. Is there a way that we could work with my schedule to have me do the host more? So when we identify the things that really fill our cup, we can hopefully work with our leadership on crafting our own position in a way. Like, our
Mhm.
job is our job, but how can we spend more time doing the tasks we enjoy? And then when it comes to things like productivity, it's how do we make the time to do the thing we don't want to do? And so there's this thing called eat your frog, which is do the thing you hate most first thing in the morning. So what is that thing? Is it when are you going to do the expense report? Or for me, like, God bless, taxes were just the other week and I did everything like 2 days before. I was like reconciling my books for the whole year because I don't enjoy doing that work. Um, but how do we feel the sense of accomplishment?
Mhm.
So it's really being intentional with our time. I have to use a lot of calendar scheduling tools. So I have to block out heads down work time, like when just uninterrupted
Mhm.
time. I also have to get better with boundaries. And I tell people I have this boundaries crystal on my desk that I'm holding up on the camera. And people are like, what does it do? I'm like, it's a visual reminder. Like
Yeah.
it's not necessarily magic, but it's this my reminder that I have
Mhm.
to set my own boundaries so I can be productive.
That rock, the boundary rock. Can you show it? Show
Yes,
it to,
it's my little
that
boundary
is
crystal.
beautiful.
So I went to a crystal shop that's by us, and I was like, I need something to help me with boundaries. And then they were like, over this section, like pick something up. And so this sits, and like sometimes I pick it up, when I'm in a meeting, especially if someone's asking me to do something, which ties into like kind of the profitability because we get asked to do things for free a lot. And you have to really decide, is this something I want to do? Is this something I need to do? Is this something, that's important to me? Do I value this? And I get asked to do a lot of things for free, and I need to really sit and decide, is this something that's going to fill my cup that I want to participate in and do? And so it's worth it to me. And it doesn't always have to be monetary gain. But then you have to be able to balance this. Yeah, you need to make a living. So things don't pay the bills. Like I need to pay rent every month. So
Absolutely. Yep.
yeah, and I struggle sometimes with the nonprofit. I just restructured our whole volunteer teams,
Mhm.
and it is really challenging for me to ask people to volunteer and not pay them. But I have to be like, oh, well, I volunteered at nonprofits my life, and we are a nonprofit, and I
Yeah.
run the nonprofit, and I don't take a salary. Like I'm volunteering all my time
Right.
for this thing. So it's like, if people want to, it's not like I'm forcing them
Right. Yeah.
or anything like that. So that's my own hang up. I kind of have to get over. But in work, I think we definitely see it in entrepreneurship. So if you're self-employed, it is very hard to balance those four things: that purpose, passion, productivity, and profit. In the conventional workplace, again, whatever kind of workplace in it, I would really encourage, senior leaders and executive teams to think about those four things. Obviously, you tend to focus on that last P of profit, which means you want this productive workforce, but how do you create an environment where people like coming to work, where they are happy, where it's not negatively impacting their health? I mean, imagine a world where every day when people left their jobs, whether they're doing pizza delivery or brain surgery, that they feel uplifted and fulfilled and accomplished. Like, imagine if you left work each day and you felt accomplished and proud. That carries over into all of our lives. So we're better partners, better parents, better pet. I just have a cat, it's like I'd be a better pet mom.
Mhm.
And we're more likely to prioritize our own well-being and to go on a walk. I mean, when I have a bad day, I'm going to pick up takeout and watch trash TV on the couch. Maybe indulge in some adult substances, and then it doesn't,
Yeah.
I don't sleep so well. And it's like a vicious cycle. But it's
Yeah.
have this good day, I'm more likely to, hang out with my girlfriends, call a friend, go for a walk after work, and
Yes.
gonna cook my
Mhm.
dinner. And it's like it improves all of us. Then that improves our society and communities. And it's like work is kind of this common thread. And there's a book I'd love to share. It came
Yeah.
out, I believe, 2017. It's called Dying for a Paycheck.
Dying
And
for a
it's
paycheck.
written by Jeffrey Pfeiffer out of Stanford. And he did all this research. And there's all these excess deaths a year in the workplace contributed to stress.
No.
This research, like very longitudinal research pre-COVID. I mean, we haven't had enough time to do these very long-term studies now, but it's like work is still killing us, and where people are still dying for a paycheck. And it shouldn't be that way. Work shouldn't be killing us. I don't think work needs to be labeled the enemy, because we can get good things out of a workplace. Again, we can get accomplishment, fulfillment, we can get social well-being.
Mhm.
We don't all want the same things out of work.
Right.
I think work can be a positive thing. Um, and yeah, it's just I don't know, it's my own way of kind of improving the world. It's like I
Yeah.
improve the world by trying to improve workplaces. So
Well, I love the way that you are making a mark in the world in your own unique way. It's meaningful to you. And the impact that I have on so many people because, a lot of people are just not happy, in the workplace, and that shouldn't be how it is. And I love working, but I need to love working on the thing that I'm doing, you
Yes.
know. But and that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna do hard things, of course. But I mean, if we are working to earn a living, to build community, to help create a better society, um, if we're not, if we're in a toxic environment, um or we're people are being treated like they're just numbers to meet a quota, a cog in the machine. I mean, no one feels purposeful that way, it's very demoralizing, I think, so I thank you so much for the work that you do, Chase. I really appreciate it. So where can people connect with you outside of the podcast?
Absolutely. I definitely encourage anyone who cares about well-being in the workplace to check out Wellbeing Think Tank. So
Mhm.
that is, we're a 501(c)(3) public charity. Every month we do free events on workplace well-being, and we kind of break it down. We'll take a topic, we look at it through what can the workplace do? Then we look at it through what can we as do as individuals for our own health, because that individual piece is a piece of it. And if you happen to be really into this work or it's a part of the work you do, we also kind of have these community of practice events where we really share collective knowledge. No one has all the answers. So, by forming community and working collaboratively, that's how I think the best solutions happen. So we really encourage that. I am a LinkedIn user. I do use LinkedIn a lot. I try to share a lot of things. So I'm Chase Sterling there. Chase at wellbeingthinktank.org is very long. My business is called HHP Cultures, and that's a .com, so hhpcultures.com, and that's my consulting work. But I'm always happy to connect with anyone who's interested in this work, whether it's the work, whether they resonate with something from my story. Maybe they also grew up in a very bad childhood situation and have these adverse childhood experiences, and hey, we're still here as adults, we can be successful. Or maybe they also have ADHD or have had a health issue, and they just want to not feel so alone. And I think there's a lot of us out there. And when you go through any kind of hard experience, I think when we're able to share it, it's like we give a little piece of it away and we all kind of collectively heal. So
Hmm.
yeah, I
Hmm.
appreciate you inviting me on and letting
Yeah.
me share, just a piece of my story. And I hope anytime I share, I hope one thing, like people get at least a nugget out of it. So, for everyone listening, I hope you got a nugget out of today. And yeah, please reach out to me. I'd love to connect. And, if I can ever be of service, I'm happy to.
Yes, thank you so much, Chase. And for those of you watching and listening, yes, you who's watching or listening, connect with Chase. The links, how to contact Chase, are in the show notes below the video, and also on the unleashyourambition.com website. So, Chase, before we close out, final words of wisdom, which can be your nugget of wisdom,
Oh my.
is yeah, is for the person who they are definitely in a toxic workspace. They love their job. They love what they do, but they can't quit. Um, they've addressed it to, their manager or whoever is, in charge, and just nothing seems to be getting done. What would you have to say to that person to keep them focused on the job that they love without getting wrapped up in the toxic environment?
I've been there. I think almost all of us have probably been there at some point in our life. I think it's with any problem in life, focus on what you can control, what's within your power. And what's in your power is how much you carry the weight of all those things. It doesn't mean they don't impact you. It doesn't mean if someone's bullying you or being rude to you at work or discriminating or microaggressions, it doesn't mean that doesn't negatively impact you, because it does. But how can you focus on your well-being, whether it's prioritizing breaks, whether it's putting up more boundaries, whether it's, doing a meditation every day or some kind of mindfulness exercise to let go of that toxicity because it's not worth your health. It's not worth the happiness in your life. So anything you can do to focus on what's within your control to prioritize your own health and happiness and success. And, it's very hard. I'm not saying I have it figured out. I think it's something you have to work on every day. But you have to craft a space where you can still survive. It's not worth letting it take you down or anything like that. So it's like, and sometimes I don't know, there's a comedian and she's like, I do it out of spite. And I don't know, spite kind of fuels me
Yeah.
too sometimes. So it's like, don't let the haters get to you, or don't let the negative parts pull you down. Like focus on you and your happiness.